Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the madness of my mind. Hi, it's Trev, and I ain't no vicar. Welcome to the Saturday evening live feed. Well, we are here, and it was a nice day this morning, but it's now gotten a bit wet. So, I'm making some viewers today, making some viewers. Ooh, someone's joining already. Someone has joined in and said hello. Hello, whoever you are. Hello, whoever you are. Welcome to the show. Now, as you all, before I start, that's all, folks. It's not all, folks. It's not all, folks. It's not all, folks, really. That's my tripping over my words and trying to recover. You know, if you enjoy the show, if you're enjoying this show, and I will repeat this at the end, if you enjoy this show, please hit that like button, that big thumbs up like button. You can hit it to say you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe if you haven't done so already, and especially ring that bell, and then you'll know when the videos are coming out. Also, uploaded today for future benefit. Uploaded today. The next part of Star Chasers has been uploaded today. The third chapter, or the first part of the third chapter. And also, because it. Because obviously I'm a human being, I couldn't do the Star Chasers and went out making stupid mistakes like rephrasing names wrong. I've actually uploaded my mistakes as well, where you can see me starting from the beginning, going along, tripping on some words and going. But yeah, if you want to enjoy that, please enjoy that. Let me know what you think. And speaking of the quick side of it, this is what we're talking about today. Last week, when we did the live feed, for those who may not have seen it, one of my subscribers wanted to know what my top 10 comics were. I replied, that's very, very hard to say, because I got my top 10 is more like top 50. You know, loads of comics, and they're all boxed up, and I could not find these things. But what I said I would do is my top 10 graphic novels. Now, you may notice I put their top 10-ish. There's a reason for that. I couldn't cut it down to top 10. No, I could not cut it down. What I've done instead is done a top 10-ish. Oh, sorry, tickly throat. So, because today's comic themed, I'm starting the day with a bad joke. I'm going to start the day with a bad joke. Now, normally I'll come out with 5 or 6. Today I'm just doing one. And I heard this joke in the 80s. Yeah, 80s. I'm that old. Honestly, I am. I'm that old. And it was when I believe they were doing the Superman film with Christopher Reeve. Oh, Superman. Oh, you know. And as the story goes, they're filming Superman 2, Superman 3. Superman 3, because Richard Pryor was in the film at the time. And he was late for film. Superman was late for filming. He was. Christopher Reeve was just a stand-in. He does the bits when Superman couldn't make the film. You see, it's true. Christopher Reeve can't fly, but Superman can. Honestly does. And he's late. They're waiting for him to turn up, and they're waiting. And about 3/4 of an hour late, he turns up. And he's not going whoosh like he does normally. He's like, he lands. And he's got blood coming out of his nose, he's all bruised eyes, he's got swollen cheek and broken teeth. And I said, what happened to you? What happened to you? And he was funny. He says, I was flying over. I was on my way here, he says. I was flying all my way over here, he says. I was on my way across Metropolis. And as I was flying over the roofs, I saw Wonder Woman start naked on one of the roofs. Just lying there. And I couldn't resist. So I zoomed down to her. And I sort of started making love to her. I started making mad, passionate love to Wonder Woman. I mean, who wouldn't? What's the bloke who charges? She was surprised. Superman thought about it. He says, Not surprised the Invisible Man was. It's it's the way I tell him. It's the way I tell him. Honestly, it's the way I tell him. So that's the bad joke of the day. That is my bad joke for the day. One day you're going to see a tumbleweed coming across the screen go, "Hey, you're the tumbleweed." Woo. Sorry, I'm the age to the tumbleweed theme tune tonight. Tumbleweed were a pop group from the late 70s, early 80s, I believe. I could be wrong. I could be. So, yes, getting back to the subject at hand. Getting back to the subject at hand. My top 10 ish graphic novels. Now, I've been spending the day going through all my comics. And if I just tilt thing round, just round a little bit, so you can see, get an idea what I'm talking about, how big my collection is, and these are just graphic novels. Now, I don't know if you can see that well, and there's a cupboard just there with loads in as well. I have got shed loads. I have got shed loads of graphic novels, and I've got over 9,000 comics. 9,000 comics, all logged. So I know which ones I got and which ones I don't get. So yes, right, these won't be in any specific order. These will not be in specific order. I said top 10, they're all like together. It's so many. Now, the first one is it is one of my favourite stories from what I call the modern era. Now, I call modern era from the year 2000 onwards, and it's Marvel. Now, as I'm sure you know, most people who know me, when it comes to comics, although I used to like a lot of DC stuff in the olden days, I'm a Marvel man. I love my Marvel comics. I love the early Image stuff when that started. But I'll get into that as we go along. Um, to understand where this one I'm about to start comes up for you, there was a crossover um, called House of M, which I'm sure you may have heard of. You may have heard of House of M. Basically, if you can set the scene, that Scarlet Witch, who can muck around with reality and stuff, she has a nervous breakdown. And in the process of this nervous breakdown, she recreates reality. And she recreates a reality, the whole dimensional reality, where mutants aren't hated, they're loved. To a point where humans are now the downclass people in society, mutants are the top. And basically every mutant wish, secret wish, hidden wish, sort of came true. And she, in the form of this nervous breakdown, she's trying to do what was best for the mutant kind, but instead sort of muck things up. I'm not going to go too far into the storyline because if you've not read it and you want to read it, I don't want to ruin it. And I don't know if you can feel the camera shaking. Gizmo has decided this is the best time to walk across the back of the table with the laptop is on and make it shake. He's actually thinking about going to the windowsill, so you may see him go through. 2 seconds. Okay. Go, mate. Go on, there you go. Go on then, you want to go? No. Oh, you can cut. You can get down then, because I don't want you on the table. Whilst I'm doing back in the place as you do normally. Cats who'd have them. Cats who'd have them. So yes, there we go. I told you he would go there. There's Gizmo. Hello to Gizmo, everybody. Hello to Gizmo. So yeah, so the Scarlet Witch has a nervous breakdown, and Gizmo's now dodging the curtains apart. I mean, yeah, you know. So yes, Scarlet Witch has a nervous breakdown and causes a new reality called House of M. Now, when House of M got resolved, so I do need to say He ended up with the words "No more mutants," and those words came from Scarlet Witch. And basically, what she then done was wiped out a massive proportion of the mutants on modern day Earth. Only 198 were left around, because the ones whose powers were taken were still alive. They just had no powers. And after a while, amongst another crossover, it turned up X-Men storyline. There was a child that was called Hope was born, and she was the first mutant to be born within a long time. And with her being born and then taken into the future by Cable, then brought back by Cable, she ended up reigniting the human race, the mutant race, and a load more mutants were then reborn. They were called Team Hope. As the storyline goes on, Phoenix is making the return to Earth, and everyone thinks Hope's going to be the new person Holder to become the next Phoenix. And there are two counts on this. You see, Cyclops, who led the X-Men at the time, decided or thought to himself, well, she's going to be the savior of mutant kind, so we need this to happen. But Captain America and Iron Man from the Avengers, their point of view was, last time Phoenix came, she basically beep, 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 the Earth. And we don't want that to happen again. So they sort of decided they're going to kidnap or take Hope into safe storage so the Phoenix can get out. Which, Phoenix is a cosmic ability. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And therefore, this one was born. E versus X, otherwise known as the Avengers versus the X-Men. And it was a brilliant story, massive story. So big. Look at the size of that hardback graphic novel. It's massive. It is massive. And it's basically exactly what it says on the book. The whole thing, all the way through, were X-Men fighting the Avengers for the safety of one human being, or one mutant called Hope. And of all the modern area graphic novels, if there's only one you need to read, I will say that's the one you need to read. Brilliant story. Brilliant story. And back it up, I had another one called Avengers versus, and these were basically the fights. And it's just like watching a wrestling match. To be Thing versus a submarine and stuff like that. And I actually sided with the X-Men at the start. But as the storyline goes along, well, you need to read it. I'm not going to ruin it. Brilliant story. So that is one of my top 10. Top 10. Now, before I go any further, say hello. Say hello to the lady, Roz.
Hello, people.
yes. She's downstairs cooking dinner tonight. And I'll say this way so Roz knows where he is. So he's behind the curtain.
For now.
For now.
Cat.
For now. He's behind the curtain. He's jumped on the table, called an earthquake on the table. Things are falling on the floor again. And Gizmo likes wrecking the place. See, we've noticed this. Gizmo likes wrecking the place. Now, my next one, again, I'm sticking with the X-Men at the moment. We're sticking with the X-Men at the moment. And there's a reason for that. There is a reason for that. Because out of all the comics that are out, X-Men have always been my favourite characters. I don't know why it is about the X-Men I specifically love. They weren't the first comics I read, but when I started reading them, I loved the stories. One of the reasons I get hooked is the artwork. When I was starting a new comic, I always look at the artwork first and then the writing afterwards. If the artwork's good, I'm 9 times 10, I'll get it. But, back in the early 90s, there was only one X-Men comic. Believe it or not, when you go today, there's loads and loads and loads of them. But in the olden days, there was only one X-Men comic. And that was known as the Uncanny X-Men, which has been so ongoing. And mucking around with the hat. Mucking around with the hat. Yes, Exeter, where I'm from, you see. And this ended when they did the storyline where they went into space and rescued Professor X, and they came back to Earth, and they went to Muir Island to battle the Shadow King. And when that ended, there were so many X-Men in the team at the time, and Professor X basically turned. I think Professor X says it was Beast. What do you do with all these X-Men? Like 14 X-Men, stupid like that. And from that came the first ever multiple comics. Now, up to the point, there were some multiple comics. There was you had the New Mutant was an offshoot. You had X Factor, who was the original X-Men, come back and doing things, and then you had the Uncanny X-Men. Now, there's 3 titles that go around at that time. But as I said, after the Muir Island title, X-Men title itself split into 2. One was called Uncanny X-Men, and one was called X-Men, just X-Men. And the artist who was doing Uncanny X-Men at that time was known as Jim Lee, one of the best X-Men artists there'd been. And the cat's moving behind the curtain, that's why it's flapping about. And he went on to write and pencil X-Men. But I'm not doing that at the moment. Now, I can show you the artwork of Jim Lee, because it should be in here somewhere. This is like the artwork of Jim Lee. I don't know if you can see that well. But another artist jumped in, the chap who was writing at the time, he was doing the artwork for X Factor, I believe. He then took the reins of the Uncanny X-Men. Which here, look, you can see the artwork there. Look, artwork. That's that for artwork. Look, the artwork there. And this is where the legendary, as most people will tell you, there were 2 teams. You had the blue team and the gold team. And the blue team was like the Beast, Gambit, Wolverine, Cyclops, Rogue, Psylocke. Jubilee was in that team as well, I believe. And then the gold team, you'd have Jean Grey, Iceman, Archangel, Storm, Forge, someone else, Colossus was also in that team. And the very first storyline that featured in Uncanny X-Men or X-Men Gold was this. X-Men Bishop's Crossing. Now, basically, there's a mutant called Bishop. Now, imagine Judge Dredd as a mutant, and you've got Bishop. He comes back in time, in the back. When he wasn't actually tricked, it was his choice to come back in time. It was a one-way trip. And where he comes from, the X-Men were honoured. They were like hierarchy, or were the hierarchy. And he discovered in the future there's one of the X-Men betrays the whole team. Really? Why have you knocked on the bloody floor? 2 seconds. Oh. Really, kids? Really? Really? A blinking cat is a pain in the arse. Oi, put your paws back. Good boy. Right. Sorry about that. This is live. No script. Things go wrong. They go wrong. And even when I finish filming it, I don't cut it, done. So yeah, Bishop's Crossing. And he comes back in time. And he's trapped in the present. And at first, he acts as a villain, but he actually becomes part of the X-Men team. And Lady Roz has returned. She has returned. She wants to sit down, but she can't because I've got my books all the way. He is a pain in the bum. He's knocked a jar off the windowsill.
What's it in your way, Gizmo?
Something like that. It probably was in his way. I should do a video, one of these videos on Gizmo alone. People will laugh, they will cry, but I should do. So yes, that's X-Men Bishop's Crossing, and they're one of the best storylines of their time. And I personally preferred Uncanny X-Men in those days to X-Men itself. My personal choice, although my favourite writer or artist at the time, one of my favourite artists at the time, he did X-Men. What you don't realise upon watching this, Roger's just standing right there listening to what I'm saying, and he's got no idea what I'm talking about because it's
It's hard to have you, so I put up with it.
yeah. You haven't a view in on this, have you? By mistake.
Not yet.
I have someone watching, I don't know who it is. And last week you did that by mistake, didn't you? See, now she's now standing me going, me, that means I'm going, bye, 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 bye. But she doesn't mean that. She's trying to tell me dinner will be ready in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes. 20 minutes.
20 to 25.
See, you got me for another 20 minutes. Another 20. Or hopefully I'll squeeze all these in that time. Hopefully. Right.
If you want me to leave it longer, I will.
No, fine. I can get through one. But yes, next on the course is you've discovered by course one of my favourite types of I love alternate universes. I love alternate authors. One of my favourite comics in the day was What If, and that was what if someone done this and what if someone done that rather than what they did do. And it views a different storyline. But one of the biggest ones Marvel ever did, in my eyes, was when Professor X's son Legion discovers he's got a new power. He goes back in time, mainly to kill Magneto. That's to save his father from having the problems that he did. And in the process, he actually accidentally killed Professor X. In the process of that, once seeing Professor X dead, Apocalypse takes that note to start to rule the planet. And he does so successfully, and a whole new universe is created. The Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse. It was so big that a lot of the titles changed for 4 months. For example, X Factor became Factor X. Uncanny X-Men became Astonishing X-Men. X-Men became Amazing X-Men. And that's just the start. That was just the start. That's Gizmo causing havoc in the curtain. The pain in the ass. So yes, that's Age of Apocalypse. Such a good read. Such a big read. That's just one book in the series. There's loads of them. It covers the whole comic side of it. Loads of books to read. It's actually the prelude to Age of Apocalypse. That's where it starts, and that's why I chose that one to show you. And yes, we are sticking with X-Men because, as I said, I like the X-Men. And this one, again, features Apocalypse. Now, back when I first started reading X-Men, they had this legend going on that there was 12 mutants that were supposed to help do something to make the world better or something like that. I didn't really find out exactly what it was because I was, at that time, I was like missing with the comics. But this storyline came to fruition, and it was brought on by Apocalypse, funny enough. And it's called, it's in 2 parts. It's basically in 2 parts, 2 books. It's 2 books. And book 1 is called X-Men versus Apocalypse 12. And that storyline sort of brings the 12 together. And without ruining things, if I don't want to, fun is enjoyed. It's got some of my favourite artists in there. Brilliant storyline. And the second one is called The Ages of Apocalypse. X-Men versus Apocalypse, The Ages of Apocalypse. Not Age of Apocalypse, The Ages of Apocalypse. And basically everyone features alternate reality where the X-Men were brought together in different ways. You've got different cast members. But mainly, one of the reasons, again, it features one of my favourite artists, Alan Davis. I love Alan Davis as a writer. Um, he features mostly in the next one I'm about to bring forward. So the next one that comes along, my next one. Now, one of the first X-Men books I read, that's an offshoot of the X-Men, was Excalibur. And they were known as the British X-Men team. Gizmo, a pain in the bum. And it was written by Alan Davis, like the other one, the Excalibur, Alan Davis. And it was Phoenix, Shadowcat, Megan, Nightcrawler, and Captain Britain. And it was exactly what it says in the book. It was a British X-Men team. Brilliant story, brilliant artwork. As I said, I always go by artwork first. That's what drew me to Excalibur to start with. It's where I fell in love with Alan Davis as a writer. Now, this one isn't issue 1 onwards. This one goes up to, I think it's 43 to 50. And the reason being because that's when the storyline ended with Alan Davis. That's when he came back to finish up all his storylines and stuff. And again, brilliant story, but you need to read it from issue 1 first for this to make sense. But this is the one I thought I'd bring out because it's Alan Davis. And you can see the artwork. Look, I don't know if you can see that well. Lovely, quite neat artwork. Brilliant. Again, same with the. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Are you enjoying this so far? Please let me know. Whoever's watching, please let me know. Again, X-Men Universe, X-Men News. Now, I just told you that Alan Davis and Mark Farman were my favorite artists. My number one artist at this kind of period when this book came out is someone called Rob Liefeld. And basically, I said earlier there used to be a comic out called New Mutants. Now, when that first came out, it did pretty well. But as it went on, it sort of died a little bit, and they were going to cancel it. And Rob Liefeld was given the book at the end, and they were based on he can do what he wants to do it within reason. And he did, and it made it popular again. And the point where one of the comics actually made the top, was number one, I think, with his artwork, number one in the top 10 comics bought at that point. And, well, I can show you the cover. That's Rob Liefeld's artwork on the cover. How cool is that? How cool is that cover? Basically, he turned the mutants into a team called X-Force and really made it a lot more gritty. Sorry, please excuse my throat. A lot more gritty and more fun to watch as well. He basically took all the way the old members and brought new characters in, made it more fun. Yeah, I love. Oh well, I can read the X-Force stories over and over and over again. All the ones I'm showing you now, there's reasons why they're in this pile. Again, I know it's an X-Men title. Yeah, this is one of my favourite ones to read. Rob Liefeld. As soon as I saw his artwork, I loved it. In fact, I didn't start reading the New Mutants until actually into his artwork. That's what brought me into the fold, is reading Rob Liefeld. Brilliant. Next, now when I was a little tiddler, you can't get these in graphic novel form. You can only get these at collections coming out at the shop. So you could come out. One of these things that come out every 2 weeks as a hardback thing. My very first comic, as in adventure comic, I ever read was Transformers UK, and basically that's what ignited my comic love of reading comics. Because when I was younger, I didn't go out much. It was, for me, it was purely watching TV and reading comics. And my gran used to buy me the Transformers UK comic every week, and I used to love reading it. I didn't know at the time that a lot of the stories in the Transformers UK comic were actually American. I didn't know that. And for that reason, Transformers is there. Transformers. And this is basically a reformatted collection of all the original US artwork, which is fantastic. As well as US, they also cover British stories as well, British artwork as well. And they put them in as best as they can, chronicle order. That is why that is there. I love Transformers. Even to this day, Transformers in my eyes is number one. I wouldn't go without reading Transformers. Please, don't diss me for this. Transformers is one of the best comics out, no question. Next. Now, I said Transformers is what got me into reading comics, and that is true. The very first superhero comic I read when I was young, and what got me into reading superhero comics was the Fantastic Four. And this was in a period where Ben Grimm, the Thing, took over the leadership of the Fantastic Four. And I read it, I loved it, and believe it or not, I only have discovered it when I came across a comic shop in Northampton. And I think I bought a couple of comics off the market, which is what was nice, but every now and then I could read those. But then I actually discovered a comic shop in Northampton, and I've begun to buy comics regularly from this shop. And this was one of the first ones I read. And Fantastic Four. That was at a period where I really got into my comics. Now, again, you can't get these in a normal graphic novel. You can only get these in the Epic collection. Brilliant. From this period onwards, I was reading it, and I loved the stories. They were fun stories. They weren't too gritty. They were done. The balance was just right. The balance of it was done just right. So yes, that's why that is in that list. Now, up till now, you notice I'm veering away from the X-Men now. You notice, have you? And yes, I have got over 10. I'm sure I have by now. I think there's 14 different titles I'm going to read at the moment. Next one I enjoyed reading at that time was Incredible Hulk. Roar! Me Hulk, me smash. When I got into reading the Hulk, the writer was known as Peter David. And again, remember what I said about how I go with artwork first? Look at that tight artwork. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That drew me to the Hulk. I thought, oh, that seems interesting. And then it was in a period of time where he joined this group called the Pantheon. And he got very, very intelligent for reasons I'm not going to go into it. And he then led the Pantheon at some point. That's where this one starts. It's sort of the end of the graphic novel, about 2 or 3 on the back is where he actually starts going towards the Pantheon side of it. I remember going to a newsagent and seeing the Hulk title there to read. And that's, again, where I actually started. In fact, if I was to go through, I could actually find the actual issue cover. Yeah, that was the cover that I picked up from. That cover there, that grabbed me. And from that moment, I loved the Hulk. Only through a certain period, I went, Hulk is hit and miss. That particular period, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Now, so far, as I said to you earlier on, I'm a Marvel man. I am a Marvel man. I'm not going to disguise that. But believe it or not, I do like other fringes. I did love the older Justice League stories, the Green Lantern stories. You're making me think now. You're making me think. I love the Titans. I like Legion, DC stuff. But of the modern era, only one DC has made the cut to be on this show. And again, it made the cut because the artwork, as I show you, you can see the artwork. It's Jim Lee. Jim Lee, one of the best artists out there. And it's Batman. Hush. When I first got this, I didn't actually realise the villain's called Hush. I didn't know that. I thought the whole book was going to be just pictures and no wording because it's shh. But thanks to Jim Lee's artwork, it's one of the few times I've ever read a Batman story and enjoyed it. I'm not a massive Batman fan. I'm sorry, Chris, if you're watching this, but I'm not. But this particular time, that's one Batman story I could recommend you read. Although I haven't read Metal yet. Metal apparently is supposed to be pretty good to read. I haven't read that one yet, or will be, so that might make the cut later on. But if you remember, I said to you earlier on that there were a lot of good artists in the olden days, like Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, and actually left Marvel. And they created a company called Image. And the idea is that they all have their own little universe within the Image umbrella, and mine goes blank. And really good comics came out. Really good comics came out. Now, Jim Lee, he ignited within the Image universe the Wildstorm universe. And was it Wildstorm? Was it Wildlife? Wildstorm, I'm sure it is. And he had comics like the Wildcats. Stormwatch was under his umbrella. Wetworks was under his umbrella. Just to name a few that I can think of right off the top of my head. Stormwatch was one of my favourite comics as well within the Image Bling. I haven't got any books I can get to show you, but this one was when all of his different branches came together under one title, and it's a crossover called Wildstorm Rising, and it's one of the best crossovers in the Image universe. I thoroughly recommend you read it. It's too complicated to go into. You don't even really need to read comics before it to understand what's going on, but it tells you what's going on. I thoroughly recommend you read that, Wildstorm Rising, under Image. Now, yes, I'm going a bit fast because I've got a time limit, because bear with me. I do hope you're enjoying these videos. Next one was, do you remember I said there was an artist called Rob Liefeld that I absolutely loved, who did X-Force? Now, he left the Marvel Universe to go to Image, and he created his own universe called the Extreme Universe. And his #1 comics under that umbrella, well, there's more than one. He had Brigade, he had Bloodstrike, Supreme, Prophet, all his stuff that he under his umbrella. But his #1 title was Youngblood. And Youngblood, if you sort of melded the X-Men to the Avengers, you'd have Youngblood. Brilliant read, absolutely brilliant read. It's one of the best artworks at the time that he's done, as far as I'm concerned. I'm saying I'm not. Yes, Youngblood. If you ever, I mean the original Youngblood, not the modern stuff, because that's not as good. I do recommend you can find the older stuff, Youngblood. Oh, Youngblood. Now, within the Youngblood storylines of the Extreme Universe came a crossover known as Extreme Sacrifice. Extreme Sacrifice, and that brought all the heroes of the Extreme Universe together. Wildstorm Rising, it was Extreme's version. Brilliant story, absolutely brilliant story. Very gory, not technical, very, very gory. A lot of storylines came to a conclusion with this book. Thoroughly recommend it. And you can even read it as a standalone job as well. You know, you can do extremely standalone. You can read that. Last but not least, another writer who left the Marvel universe, known as Eric Larson, who was famous in the Spider-Man comics that I was reading at the time. He left and started up his own little universe. I can't tell you what he called his universe because I can't remember. His character that he brought up was just called Savage Dragon. Doesn't he look cool? Doesn't he look cool? And it's very gritty. It's a very adult comic to read. He's got a dark sense of humour, right? Larson has. And this one has even got the appearances of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in it. Very, very graphic. He does be very, very gory as well, because the Image comics weren't covered by the comic code. They could go beyond a bit and make things very, very gory if they wanted to. Very, very good. Savage Dragon, one of the best Image comics out. I thoroughly recommend you read it. It's one of the few ones I believe is still going now. I could be wrong. although I don't read it nowadays. I should do, really, I should do. So I want to get the entire storyline under hard and a comic graphic novel as you go, as you go, as you go. So that's it. That is my massive collection of comics. Not a massive, you saw them over there. That is what I call my top 10-ish graphic novels I like to read over and over and over again and over again and over again. So what do you think? Let me know what you think. Do you agree with some of my choices? Do you not agree with some of my choices? Please let me know what you think, because this is what I'm here for. I hope you've enjoyed the show, because I'm about to cut off now. And if you have enjoyed the show, this is where things get a bit mad. Please hit that like button. Please hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. And then ring that bell. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. Ding dong. A ding a ling a ling. And of course, the best thing you could do. The best thing you could do. The best thing you could do is tell your friends about it. Tell them about it. Tell them about the show. Pass the word how much you'd like it, because I'm sure they'll want to know. Tipple up, my friends. Tipple up. Farewell. This is Trev the Rev, and it ain't the Vicar. Signing off. Until next week. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.